You're getting fat loss all wrong with your clients. Here are the two extremes I see. I see coaches grinding their clients on low-carb 1,200 calories for an indefinite amount of time, destroying their thyroid, affecting their health, and making it harder and ultimately to lose more fat. But on the other side of the coin, I see the coaches who try and get as much fat loss from the smallest possible deficit. While this isn't anywhere near as bad an approach, you're finding that you're losing buy-in massively. So let me tell you two approaches to how to look at fat loss with your clients and who is best to use them for. The first approach is the high to low approach. This is the old school bodybuilding approach you probably already heard of, where you find out what their maintenance calories are and you subtract around about 300 to 500 calories per day and then work down as they start to plateau. However, you're not dealing with paper, you're dealing with clients. And if you're working with general population clients, you may run into a few issues. The first of those issues is that people are off with tracking calories anywhere between 30 to 50%. Even registered dietitians are commonly shown to be off. Multiply that by the fact that food labels can be off around 20 to 30%, and if you start to go out and eating at restaurants, this becomes a real clusterfuck. The second problem with this is that most general population clients coming to you are probably going to be fairly sedentary. They're going to be working at office jobs and they're not going to be training very often, and the training they are doing, they're probably not generating enough intensity to really utilize those extra calories and those extra carbohydrates. And add to that as well that even with the best calorie calculator macro split in the world, everything we're doing is just an educated guess. And because of that, we might actually find that we're waiting 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks before we actually get them into a deficit because our estimations were just off. Because of this, you're going to have a client that's going to be losing buy-in by the day, thinking this process isn't working for them, which is going to affect dramatically their long-term retention and their long-term consistency in the program and ultimately their results. It's also not good for a beginner from a practicality standpoint too, because let's say they're eating 3,000 calories of pizza, donuts, and chocolate bars, and we switch it to 3,000 calories of good, highly nutrient-dense foods and high food volume. This may affect the digestive system, especially if they're coming to you from a stressed state where their digestive system is already going to be compromised to a degree. But I'm not saying the high to low approach is useless. If you're working with intermediate to advanced trainees who've been training for a long time, they can train really, really hard in the gym, they're super active and they've tracked the calories before, so they kind of know where they're at and they're already eating decent food sources, this is a fantastic approach because we want to minimize any metabolic downregulation as much as humanly possible and hold on to as much of the hard-earned muscle mass they've achieved up to this point. Whereas the beginner didn't really have that much muscle mass to begin with. And everything is going to gain muscle mass because just training and having a high protein intake will do the job just fine. So if we know the high to low approach works really well for the advanced trainee, what do we do with the beginner trainee? Let me introduce you to the low to high approach. This is where we start calories at a slightly bigger deficit. This has a larger margin for error, and a recommendation here is somewhere between 10 to 12 calories per pound of body weight. And this larger margin of error will mean that if they inevitably have a few meals out, it might not cut too much into that deficit. They might still be in a deficit at the end of the week. It also allows for tracking error, snacks, mistakes, that over the first few weeks when you start looking at food pictures, food diaries, and educating the client and building awareness, you might start to see them close the gap between what they think they're eating and what they're actually eating. It also means you're fueling the training they're actually doing, whether they're moving not or whether they're training infrequently or not very hard. And because of the initial big win and the big drop in weight, you're going to get more buy-in. A lot of people think that slow and steady is the way to get sustainable long-term fat loss results, but when you look at the research, it kind of disagrees with you. With a quick win, getting a big buy-in leading to momentum, and then momentum leading to confidence and competence, and in turn, better long-term results. But this isn't the low-carb, 1,200 calorie plan that you're just going to stick them on for the rest of your life. You're planning to start feeding and fueling the metabolism as they go through the process. So as they start moving more and the energy flux goes up, we can then start to feed them a little bit more. As they start to train with a bit more intent, we can start to feed them a little bit more. As we get into the inevitable motivation dip that a lot of clients have around the 6 to 8 week mark, we can then start to make the diet easier for them, not harder. As you can start to see here, we're really sort of leaning in to the problems that most beginners face on a fat loss plan. So how do you start to increase calories on a low to high approach? Well, you should be setting a goal of your client for a fat loss of around about 0.5% to 1% of your body weight per week. Now, this is going to be a big deficit. They might lose a big drop in the initial first 2 weeks from glycogen and water retention. But after that, especially if you've educated them well and now they're actually starting to get closer to the actual calorie target rather than the mistakes bringing them up a little bit higher, you'll probably start to see this is too much of a deficit and they'll be losing consistently more than that 1% target per week. If that is the case, then we can start to add food to bring them up to 12 calories a pound or even up to that small deficit where that sweet spot is to lose 0.5% to 1% per week. So how might this look? So let's say you've gone through 4 weeks and now you're realizing that they need a little bit of food to fuel their training. You could either choose to put, let's say, 30 grams of carbs for girls or 50 grams of carbs for guys before workouts to fuel training. You might decide to put it after workout to kickstart recovery. You might decide to put 30 to 50 grams of carbohydrates on training days before bed to help calm the central nervous system down from the carbohydrates that can help release serotonin and allow a little bit of flexibility in evening time where a lot of your clients want to eat dinner with their families. Alternatively, you can have some clients that just live for the weekends, and giving them a Monday, Wednesday, Friday 50 grams of carbs just isn't going to cut it and isn't going to excite them. But taking that same 50 grams of carbs over the 3 days and condensing it into 150 grams of carbs on Saturday means you can do 6 days low, 1 day high, and then you can adjust from there. Maybe the second adjustment is increasing that high day, or the second adjustment could be now starting to add the carbohydrates onto the training day to create a high, medium, and low day. This carb cycle now is good for thyroid health, having a high fluctuation in calories. But we haven't given someone on day one 3 different meal plans to follow to add decision fatigue and complexity. We've started them a very simple, straight meal plan that they can actually achieve, that they're not going to feel it's just too much food, they can get some quick wins, and as they get into the routine and as there is demand, we start to fuel it. So there are a couple of approaches to help you get started with your clients. Your intermediate to advanced clients, start on the smallest deficit possible to fuel their training, hold on to as much muscle mass as you can, and minimize any metabolic downregulation. With your beginner clients, start low to give yourself more of a margin of error and then work up as the training demand, the activity demand, the competency demand require it. If you want to know more about this, follow me at Kingsley Dutton on Instagram and reach out on a DM. I'm happy to have a conversation with you and help you with your clients. We're putting out daily information there, probably more than here, to help with your clients. And we're going to be soon giving you much more videos. So please don't forget to hit the subscribe button.